So ScHARe is a cloud platform. It's hosted by the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities, the Office of Data Science Strategy, and the National Institute of Nursing Research. Next. We have to give a special thank you to all these people because they're the ones who have made this possible and to get us to this point in a very short amount of time. And as you can see, the Broad Institute is even helping us with the Think-a-Thon now. Next. This is what we're going to cover today. We did the setup. We're going to do the overview now. Luca's going to recap what we've done on the other Think-a-Thons just very quickly. And then we're going to focus today on uploading your own data and using Google hosted data. Next. We did this one. So next. ScHARe, if you look on the main page, it was really designed to increase the participation of women and underrepresented populations with health disparities. And that includes minorities, sexual gender minorities, rural, low SES, because they're very underrepresented in the data sciences. We also are doing this because we want to create a paradigm shift in thinking about health disparities research. Instead of thinking of research that is more done on your laptop with a small set of data, we're trying to create a paradigm shift into the use of large data sets so that we can better understand health disparities and even link to maybe biological or omics type of data to get a more enriched way to do both health outcomes, healthcare delivery, and health disparities research. And of course, our ultimate focus is also to mitigate biases that often occur using AI and data science. Next. There are several components to the ScHARe platform. We have the data sets. We're in the process of building the data repository. Of course, there's computational tools and there's workspaces that Luca will go over today. It is based on a Google platform. Terra is the interface into that platform, and that's what we're learning now. And there's also a GitHub associated account and the NIMHD ScHARe portal. Next. This is the data sets that we have been going over. We have data sets that are hosted by Google and data sets that are hosted by the ScHARe account. The data sets are organized by the social determinants of health behaviors, disease, and conditions. This is one of the centralized places in which social determinants of health data, population data is there. So it's important that it deals with all of the social aspects. Next. This is just an example of some of the data sets that are there. And of course, Python and R, BigQuery, which are things that some of the things that we'll go over today. Next. We also will deal with this in the future. Next. And this is the repository that we're building. And in the repository, it is going to focus on the core common data elements that was developed by NIMHD and NINR. It becomes the foundation of how we will be able to develop this repository and then be able to link to all the other data sets. As you can see, with the core common data elements, it allows us to take project data and move it together, map it and aggregate it easier. Next. And it will also allow us to map to federated data sets. And eventually we will map to the other Terra cloud platforms. So one of the reasons that we chose Terra as our interface is so that it could map to these other platforms as well. Next. So in order to stay up to date and all the news and what we're doing, please sign up for the ScHARe news. This is how we send out information about events. We have special events sometimes, like last week we hosted an event just for educators so they can use Terra and ScHARe as a resource for their classroom instruction. And we plan on having other events to do such. Next. So Mark, would you take over and do the next interest poll, please?
So the poll should now be available.
So if you go to Slido again, please.
So it's slido.com, and then the code is Terra, or you can open the Slido app on your phone or tablet, same code Terra. And we also post the link in the chat again. And you see the results coming in now. And as a reminder, it's the same Slido code and link for the entire session today.
Excuse me, may I ask a question quickly?
I'm sure.
So I'm this is the first time for me here on this Zoom meetings, and I'm confused what Terra is and ScHARe. So is ScHARe a workspace of data related to health disparity, and Terra is the cloud platform for data analysis?
No. So kind of. So ScHARe is the name of the total package of resource. So what ScHARe really is a Google Cloud platform. It has Google hosted data and many of the Google hosted computational tools. In order to actually use all of that, you need to have an interface to the cloud. So Terra is that interface to the cloud. It allows us to, through Terra, we can pull down data, we can, Terra has tools on it to analyze the data. Terra will create, in all those components, you can create workspaces so that it's just you and no one else can get into your data or your work. So Terra is the way that we use the Google Cloud. Terra, the Google Cloud, and the NIMHD portal is all together the ScHARe project, the ScHARe platform. Did that help?
Yeah, so okay, so on Terra I can create different workspaces, not only for ScHARe, or through Terra I can create other workspaces, or
Tim, I don't know that if he creates a workspace on ScHARe, does that account for anything?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, for sure. So ScHARe is a program with a lot of resources that are in the cloud and otherwise. Terra is being used to help orchestrate those resources in the cloud. Makes it just easier. You can do everything actually in Google if you wanted to, just takes a bigger learning curve. So Terra takes care of a lot of stuff for you. So Clid, when working with ScHARe and ScHARe resources in Terra, there may be like billing objects or whatever it might be that they have for that program. And Debbie knows all those rules for that. And you would use those as far as how the program works. But you can also, Terra is used by other projects as well. And so you could, for instance, have your own research in Terra separately and be doing something else, maybe another grant or project you have. And then maybe it might make sense to share some of that with ScHARe friends or other institutional friends in other places as well. And that's very possible too. You can use Terra for your own research as well as the ScHARe project, as well as accessing data in Anvil. So like it's a multi-tenant, it's multiply useful. You can just do personal things in it if you want to, for instance.
Okay. So
Yeah,
how is that
and-
related to CollabNet? Or that's a completely different thing?
I'm not
Because
sure
I-
I'm aware of that, but if you send a link,
Because
I'm
I
happy to look
used
at
to
it.
work on like Python, like
It's
Google
a different
CollabNet
platform.
on
It's a
Google
different
also.
platform, Caleb.
Is it?
It's a different platform.
Okay.
It's not the same thing. So we're going to
Okay.
stay on Terra. And the one nice thing about learning Terra through what we do, and Broad Institute also gives Terra tutorials. So, but if you learn Terra here, you're going to be able to go to all those other cloud platforms at NIH, like Anvil and all of us and Biodata Catalyst, and probably be able to navigate Terra there as well. So Terra itself is very similar across all the platforms, even though there's some variation. So learning it here helps you across the board. And one of the questions in the chat was, can we upload our own data? And yes, we're going to show you how to do that today. So that's why we're going to move on. So thank you for filling out the poll. And it looks like we have quite a variety of interests, so that's nice. Okay, next slide, Luca. So the other part that we do with the ScHARe platform itself, and this is to help people to learn to use ScHARe. We have conducted these Think-a-Thons. So this is one of many Think-a-Thons. We have 3 different types. These are more instructional. So we're giving you tutorials mostly on how to use Terra, but in a couple months, there'll be one on Python. And so they're really just to help get you up to speed. And then we're going to move into Think-a-Thons that actually do research and to use the data that is on the ScHARe platform. Next. So Luke is going to take over now, and he's going to recap some of the things that we've done in the other Think-a-Thons. He's not going to spend a lot of time and go as slow as we did when we covered that information. This is just sort of a general overview. If you did not participate in those others, you might be a little lost as fast as we're going to sort of cover this point of it. But you can always go back to the webpage and put, I think there's somebody here that can put the chat into the chat, the webpage, so that you know where to go to get the Think-a-Thon recordings. Okay, Luca?
Perfect. And the good news is that none of this is really needed today. And the other good news, as Debbie said, we have plenty of slides and instructional materials for you to refer to if what I'm going to say now is going to be unclear or you need more time to review everything. So as you can see, I've also prepared some summary slides here that you can always access later that teach you how you can register for ScHARe, and all of us have done that, and then how to create a Terra account. And this is what I'm going to demonstrate in a moment. So how you can create your own workspace to work in Terra with your own data or with data available in other workspaces, and how you can share your workspace with your collaborators. I'm also going to explain how you can copy some other workspace that you find on Terra and that you find interesting and that you're interested in reusing somehow, either its data or its analysis. And then I'm going to show you what notebooks are and how you can create one and run it. So that said, I would invite you to follow my steps. You don't need to replicate my steps, just follow my explanations. I'm going to demonstrate how you can do all that I just explained. So can you all see my browser?
We still see PowerPoint right now.
Okay, you should see it in a moment.
We see it.
Okay, perfect. So this is our workspace, right? And as I was saying before, there are several sections here on the top. You can see the names: dashboard, data, analysis, workflows, job history. And I just explained briefly what they are. So the dashboard is where you can have all the information on your current project, the project to which the workspace is dedicated. And you can put in a description. And in our case, we have information about the ScHARe project, and we have information on how to get started, or a list of notebooks that are contained in our workspace, and some frequently asked questions here. And on the right, you can find some information on the workspace, and this is going to come helpful later. But there is some cloud information on on how you can access the data that is in your workspace. I'll explain that in a moment. In the data tab, this is where you can access all the data that is in your workspace. So in our case, you can access all of the data sets that we host. So there is a full list here. So you can see that there are 118 data sets right now. And if you go to the right here and you scroll to the right, you can access information about each data set. So, for example, this data set is about adjusted graduation rates. And there is a link. There is information on the category of the data set. There is a link to the data. There is a link to helpful materials, such as the data dictionary for this data set, and information on the file format and the home page, which is, of course, the source of the data set, and some information on size. So there is a search functionality that you can use to search among these data sets by clicking here. And as Debbie pointed out before, these data sets are categorized based on the CDC social determinants of health categories, with the addition of disease and conditions and health behaviors. So feel free to explore all these data sets at your own pace later. And the next tab, the analysis tab, is where you can create notebooks. So notebooks are documents that contain both code and explanations, graphs, plots at the same time. So for the educators among us, they are a great instructional material. They can really make your teachings really easy to understand and more easily shareable with your students. So I'll open this notebook here, because this notebook is the one that contains information on all the data sets that are in our workspace. So you can see that, as Deborah mentioned before, we have Google Cloud public datasets, ScHARe hosted public datasets, and other datasets that contain project data or program data. And as you can see, there are descriptions for each dataset. So these are the categories of the datasets that we host. And if you scroll down, you can see that for each dataset, you have information such as the name, the source, a description, and a link to the main page for that dataset. So this is also helpful if you want to just visualize what kind of datasets our workspace hosts. While if you want to access the data, then the data tab is where you would go. And finally, yeah, I'm not going to bother now with workflows, but it's something that makes it easier for you to accomplish operations that are repeated operations that you have to accomplish every time. So I'm not going to go into that now. I want to show you how you can create your own workspace. So something similar to what we have, but with your own data and your own analysis. So if you click on the top left menu here, you can access the workspaces section, where all of the workspaces you have access to are listed. So notice that you have access to ScHARe and to ScHARe Think-a-Thons. ScHARe Think-a-Thons is a workspace that we created for this event. And if you want to create a new workspace, all you have to do is to click here on create a new workspace.
Luca, give people a minute to get there, please.
Sure, they don't need to follow my steps, actually. I'm only demonstrating things.
Oh, okay, but give them a second so they can get there, because there's people that are a little behind.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. And then in this window here, you can specify a name for your workspace. Then you have to select a billing project for all the charges that are associated with that workspace. So in this case, I'm going to select the free billing project that we are using today, ScHARe Temp. And then don't bother about bucket location, just leave the default value. It's just the region where the data is stored. We don't need to worry about that now. And then you can input a description here. And again, don't worry about authorization domains. They are a security setting. We're not going to go over those today. And then all you have to do is click on Create Workspace. Be sure not to use the name of an existing workspace, because it will give you an error. So change your name to something else. It's going to take some time. Perfect. And here is a brand new workspace. So you can add a description, upload data, add your own analysis, etc. And now it's time to show you how to share this workspace with your collaborators, assuming that you want to work with someone else on this project, because you can keep the workspace for yourself, of course. But you can, if you want, create groups of users with whom to share this workspace. So let's do that. Let's click on the top left button here. And in the menu that opens, click on your name and then on groups. So let's create a new group of collaborators that you want to work with on your project. So let's click on create a new group. And all you have to do here is enter a unique name for this group. Oh, remember that you cannot use spaces. And then click on create group. The group is going to be at the bottom of this page. Here it is. So I'm going to open it.
Slow down. Slow down.
Okay, perfect. So we created group. And since this page lists all the groups that you have created, you just have to look it up. Here it is. It's in alphabetical order. So you click on the name of the group. And you can start adding users. So if you have collaborators, or in the case of educators, if you have students that you want to work with on a certain project, click on Add User. And all you have to do is input their email addresses one by one. And then you have to click on Add User. So you repeat the step for, as many collaborators as you want. And then if you go back to the groups page, I want you to notice that each group is associated with a group email. So in email, identifying the entire group. And I'm going to copy this because it's going to come helpful in a moment. It's going to come helpful because the next thing we have to do is to actually share the workspace that we created with this group of collaborators. Because so far we have only created the group. Now we have to give them permission to actually use our workspace. So I click on the usual button here. I go to workspaces this time to try to find the workspace that I previously created. Okay. There are so many. Well, actually, I can demonstrate this with any workspace. So once you find the workspace, if you scroll to the right, you see that there is this small menu with 3 dots. You click on it, and the system gives you a series of options. And you're going to select Share, because you want to share this workspace with your collaborators. So when you click on Share, you see that you're free to add individual emails if you want to share this workspace with individual users. Or if you want to share it with an entire group, as we do, you can just paste the group email here. So you remember the email that I copied before that was identifying the entire group that I had created? You can just copy it and paste it here, which is what I'm going to do. And then I'm clicking Add. And in this window here, you can also specify whether you want your collaborators to just see your workspace and your analysis without being able to modify them, or if you want them to actually actively contribute to them. So if you want them to be able to modify your workspace, to write analysis with you, to write notebooks with you, etc. So if you want them to be able to read, you're going to assign a reader permission. If you want them to be able to actually write and modify the contents of your workspace, you're going to assign a writer permission. And this box here, Can Compute, is for you to specify if you want to sustain the costs of their computations and if you want them to be able to actually run computations in your workspace. And all you have to do here is you click Save. And now the workspace that we have created is shared with your collaborators, meaning that they are able to view it and access it. The last thing I want to show you for this recap is how to create notebooks. So I'm going to go back to our test workspace. I'll take a moment. Perfect. And then I'll open the analysis section. And I'm just going to show you one of these, because I want you to understand what notebooks are. So they are documents that contain explanations. So this notebook, for example, provides instructions on how to access data, right, stored in your computers. And there are explanations, and then there are portions of it that are code. So if you see these cells here, you can run each of these cells and run commands in Python or R. These are the 2 languages supported by Terra. And you can actually see the output of those commands. We'll get to this. I just wanted to show you that They are complex documents containing explanations, text, and codes, or also images and graphs. So they're really helpful to run analysis. And here is how you can create one. So you go here to your analysis, you click on Start. And you have to select which kind of notebook you want to create. There are several that are supported by Terra, mainly for the type of research we work on. It's going to be Jupyter or RStudio. And Galaxy is about genomic data. So I'm going to click on Jupyter here. All of these that you see on screen are Jupyter notebooks. And you're going to input a name for the notebook. I'm going to pick the usual test ABC name. You're going to select the language that you want to use. So as I said, notebooks support 2 programming languages. So one is Python and the other one is R. I'm going to select Python now. And you're going to click on Create Analysis. Perfect. And then I'm going to retrieve. Oops, sorry. Perfect. And here is the notebook that we just created. So if you want to open it, you just have to click on it. And of course, this one is going to be empty because we just created it. But I'm going to open another of the notebooks to show you how you can actually run an existing notebook. So let's run.
So,
oh, please.
So for the questions in the chat, he's overviewing what we've done in the past. You don't have to do this, and he's going to move along now and get to where we are today, and doing data sets. So this was just an overview. You don't have to have permission to be into a platform or a work group or anything at this point. So this was just a review of things that we've gone over in the past, and he's gonna be wrapping this overview up very shortly so we can get on to what we're doing today.
Yes, I just wanted to show you that you can actually open a notebook and run all the code that is contained in the notebook. And this requires you to start the cloud environment. The cloud environment is basically a virtual machine. So a copy, like a copy of your regular computer, that is going to help you run the analysis. And it's going to offer you computational power that you can use to run your analysis. And I'm going to show you how you can do that in a moment. And that's it for my recap. And now I want to show you, I want to go back to the slides and tell you what we are going to do today.
So this will be the hands-on part where you click and follow along with him. The first part was just an overview. I know that many of you have already participated, so it was just to review what we've done. As I said, if you did not, if this is your first one, you can actually go onto our webpage and cite and put it into the chat, where to access the videos to actually get more detailed instruction of what he just did in an overview. Today, we're focusing on the data sets, and that's what he's going to start now. This is where you start using your clicks.
Exactly. Perfect. So before we start, let's try to understand what data you can work with on ScHARe. So mainly I would say 2 categories. Data that you upload to your workspace. And by this, I mean, your own project data that is stored on your computer, data you normally work with on your computer, and that you're free to upload to your workspace in Terra to take advantage of all the resources that Terra offers. So that's the first category, data you upload. And then another category is data that is already in the ScHARe data ecosystem. So it could be data hosted by Google or data hosted by ScHARe, so by us, or public data hosted by ScHARe or project data hosted by ScHARe. And here are the differences and the characteristics of these different data sets. So Google hosted, they are basically public accessible and hosted by Google through the Google Cloud Public Dataset Program. I'm going to describe that later today. And then the ScHARe hosted public datasets are datasets that are publicly accessible and hosted by us. While when I speak of ScHARe hosted project datasets, I mean datasets that can be either public or controlled access because they contain private information, and that they are from funded programs or funded projects at NIH. So this, you know, of course, because I demonstrated it earlier, but it's just a reminder that you can explore all the data that is available on ScHARe using that notebook that I showed you before, the first one containing information on all the data sets available on ScHARe. So that way you can see what data is available. If you want to actually access the data, then you have to go to the data tab that I showed you before as well. So in the data tab, you have all these data tables that help you actually access data and find information about each data set. Okay, and now I would ask Kevin to, or Mark, to help us with our datasets poll. So given that I gave you an overview of what kind of datasets we currently host, I'd like to understand what kind of datasets would you like to see? So what other datasets in addition to the ones we have? And I would also like to ask you what kind of research questions do you think these datasets will enable for health disparities research? So Mark, can you take over? Thank you.
Mark, you might be on mute. So again, please go to the Slido account and start just typing in the answers to the points, the question.
Sorry, yes, I should have reiterated, but same way to get there, slido.com, or use the Slido app, or click the link from the chat, and then please respond to the prompt. You'll see it in the Ideas tab. You should be automatically taken there if you were already on the site.
And if you notice to the little right, there's a little thumbs up. If you agree with that particular approach or that idea, you can just click on it, and it reinforces what some of the efforts are. And the reason we're asking this kind of question is because when we move into the Think-a-Thons that are research focused, we do want to do something that is relevant to your interests. And this is a way that we're going to determine that. So if you could please think of things that you are interested in and how you would want to use large data sets and that are combined, like you can put many data sets together in cloud computing to get your answers to your questions. So help us to know what kind of research you're looking to do.
Sorry, I was muted, but I just wanted to add that you can also reply to other people's ideas. If you want to piggyback off of something that someone else has written, then you can reply to sort of thread your clarification with their idea, in addition to, of course, adding the thumbs up for those ideas that you agree with.
There's lots of good ideas going, so that's nice. We will take these to help collaborate, like I said, the research Think-a-Thon. So thank you for these good ideas. Feel free to continue to put them in. And Luca, do you want to go continue now?
Sure. So I share my screen again. Perfect. And now we're going to get to the hands-on part. So today's tutorials are going to teach you how to work in Terra with data you upload or with data that is already in the ScHARe Data Ecosystem. And in particular, for this session, we'll focus on Google-hosted public data sets. So we're going to start with data you upload to your workspace, so your own personal project data stored on your computer. Okay, so here is a brief introduction. We're gonna focus on using Python, the Python programming language today.
Just a minute, Luca.
Sure.
So one of the things, even though we're doing, so this is data you upload. So this is data, your own private data, right? But we're going to do this together. So Luca's going to have you download data from ScHARe onto your computer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing we're going to do. And then he's going to use that data set that we downloaded to upload it. But keep in mind, if it's already on your computer, you don't have to do the download part, right? You only have to do the upload. But we want to do a joint effort. So we're going to use the same data set. So he's going to first get you to download the data, and then he's going to teach you how to upload it into ScHARe.
Perfect. Thank you, Debbie. Yeah, I was going to get to that in a minute. But sure, that's how it works today. And I also wanted to mention that we're going to focus on the Python programming language today. But there's no reason why you couldn't do the same things using R if you're more familiar with the R language. And we offer notebooks in our analysis section in our ScHARe workspace that explain how to use R instead. So please feel free to explore those maybe later today. We focus on Python because according to many sources, most machine learning developers and data scientists use Python today. So about 70% of them versus around 25% of them using R. And Python is a powerful programming language. It's used in data science to manipulate and analyze data and create data visualizations or build machine learning algorithms. And there are many powerful libraries, Python libraries that you can use, Python tools that you can use. And some examples are listed below. So you can see that there are tools for linear algebra or for data science tasks, machine learning tasks. There is everything out there. And we're going to see some examples today of tools that you can use in your analysis. And can you learn Python with no experience? Yes, of course. And Python is like the perfect programming language for people that don't have any coding experience. It has a very simple syntax and language, so it's really accessible to beginners. And it can take some time to learn Python, of course. It can take 2 to 5 months. But it's also true that you can write your first short program in Python in minutes. And you can reuse existing code, as we will show you today, from our notebooks to just accomplish what you want to accomplish really easily and without having to learn everything before you can actually do something hands-on. And there are so many online resources that you can take advantage of. So some of them are listed here, and you see like 7 links, but actually if you click on them, you see just the first one is like 30+ tutorials to learn Python. And so please feel free to explore those. We also have one page on our website explaining all the the free tutorials and resources that you have available. And about R, I'm sure all of you are familiar with R, but it's a programming language for statistical computing and graphics used by data scientists, bioinformaticians. And it works kind of the same way because users can create packages to like augment its functions, similar to the Python tools, the Python libraries that we mentioned before. And there's also a graphical user interface that you can use instead of just writing lines of code on your computer. And that interface, one of the interfaces is called RStudio, and that's what's available on Terra for you to use. And then, as Deborah was saying before, today we're going to focus for this first tutorial on data that you upload to your workspace. So we're going to ask you to download a data set and then upload it into your Terra workspace, just because we want to work with the same data, all with the same data today. But you can actually do the same, replicate the same steps with your own data that you have on your computer. And the data we're going to work with today is the Minority Health Social Vulnerability Index dataset. And it's based on the original Social Vulnerability Index by the CDC. It's an extension by the Office of Minority Health. And it contains US Census data to help on support for communities in public health emergencies. So there were 15 original SVI social factors in the original dataset. And those are combined with additional factors known to be associated with COVID outcomes. And the factors, you can actually see them on the left if you're interested. And the file we're going to use today, the dataset file, is a TSV file. So for those of you who don't know, TSV is an abbreviation for tab separated values file. So it's a file format that is very commonly used on Terra and in general to exchange data between databases. And as you can see in the orange box on the right, there are many other file formats, and each has its own way of separating or storing data in it. And for example, a TSV file uses tabs, while a CSV file is called CSV because it uses commas. And there is a link that I put here in the orange box that explains how to use Python code to actually access and read all these files, in case it's helpful, maybe for advanced users, for the advanced users among you. So let's start. So I would invite you to point your browser to terra.bio. You have already done this, I'm sure. You have already logged in to Terra. And I would invite you to now access the ScHARe Think-a-Thon's workspace. I show you how to do that in a moment, and to go to the Analysis tab. We're going to look for this notebook here, number 9, how to upload, access, plot, and save data stored locally using Python. So I'm going to switch to my browser now, and I'm going to show you all the steps one by one. Okay. Perfect. So if you are logged into Terra, you can click on the menu here on the top left of the page. And then you click on Workspaces. And then you have to click on ScHARe Think-a-Thons, which is the name of the workspace that we created today for this event.
Just hold on a minute, Luke.
Sure. Yes, I was going to do that.
Yeah.
let me know if you have any questions.
Oh, there's plenty of questions. We're answering them between Kaylee, Tim, me.
Perfect.
Adam.
I know money in the chat.
So next.
Perfect. Then all you have to do in this page, you have to click on the workspace name. So click on Share Think-a-Thons. When you do that, you should be brought to this page. So that's the workspace dashboard. And then you have to go to the analysis section, because the analysis section is where all the notebooks are accessible from. So I'm going to click on analysis. And I'm happy to replicate these steps. If needed, just let me know. Okay, and then in this window here, I'm gonna search for our notebook number 9. Here it is.
So the way you can see the numbers is they're right in after Jupiter. There's a 09, 08, 07, 06, 05. So just scroll down till you hit 09.
Oops, sorry. I clicked on it.
And then click on 09.
Yes.
And then you'll come to this page. So click on 09 and you get to this page.
Are we all on this page?
Should be there. We're good.
Okay, perfect. And then the next step is to actually open this notebook. And as you can see here, it says starting cloud environment, right? So because it's prepping all that is needed to actually run the analysis in the notebook. And by all that is needed, I mean your virtual machine, your virtual computer that is gonna help you run these analysis. And I'm pretty sure that I have already configured this, my cloud environment, but you might see a different screen asking you to actually configure your cloud environment. And I'm not sure if there is a better way of showing you this, but you can just leave the default values. Are you all seeing that screen?
It just says notebook overview.
So you should be able to see something like this on your computer.
We are seeing this.
Perfect. Perfect. And you see, this is actually interesting because it gives you a way of estimating the costs, right, of this virtual machine. When many of you had questions about the cost, and this is a way, for example, for you to estimate how much it's going to cost you to actually run this virtual machine. So it's like 5 cents per hour. So it's not much. And 40 cents per month in terms of storage space. And leave the default values here. So leave application configuration default, and then CPUs, memory, you can leave all of this with the default values. And then you should have a button here saying create. I already did this, so I don't see the same screen that you see. And now when you click on create, it might take 3 to 5 minutes to actually create the virtual machine. But no worries, we can start opening the notebook and explaining a few things while we wait. So if any one of you has problems creating that cloud environment, please let us know in the chat. It should be pretty easy. You can just leave the default values and click on create.
And it might take a little bit of more time because we have everybody doing this at the same time.
And then another thing that you might see is when you click on open the notebook, it might say that the notebook is already in use because of course I have it open. So in that case, there is a button next to it saying run in playground mode. Click on that because that allows you to run the notebook, take all the steps that I'm taking without actually modifying the contents. So multiple people can actually work on the same notebook.
Look, where will they see the playground mode?
I cannot
I know,
show
but
it
just
now, but
where will they see
there's a
it?
button here where you see these 3 blue dots that said open, right? When you click on that, it should pop up a message saying that the notebook is already open. And there should be a button next to it saying run in playground mode. That's what you have to click. If anyone has difficulties, please let us know. Kaylee, would you be able to help those users who are having problems setting up the cloud environment?
I am working on it. I'm working on an issue trying to find the notebooks, and I will, let's see, the cloud environment error. I am not familiar with this error, but my guess is that it may be associated with there's sometimes a delay in the permissions being transferred to a new workspace. So that's going to be something you may have seen a message similar to something that says something like that.
Yes, you can just watch Luca do it.
Okay.
And like I said, maybe with so many people trying, the system is kind of overloaded.
Yeah,
So,
I would suggest at this point waiting a couple minutes and trying it again.
so for those of you who are a little more experienced, you may want to just wait and let some of the people who are less experienced go along with Luca right now, and then try again in a few minutes.
I mean, when you get that error message, you click on the details, and then it's giving you something, and then it says refresh. When you hit the refresh, it kind of worked for me.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thanks for the
Perfect.
tip.
Yeah, I'm gonna refresh my screen too because it's taking longer than usual.
And just so you all know, yes, all of this recording and slides are posted on our webpage. So on the Think-a-Thon web page, so they'll be posted there in about 7 to 10 days. We have to get them 508 compliant before they're posted. That's why it takes longer.
It's taking a little longer than usual to start the cloud environment. So I'm gonna explain the first steps in the meantime while we wait for the cloud environment to be ready. So as you see in this notebook, I provide some instructions first. right? And I answer some frequently asked questions like how much will it cost, for example, and how long will it take to run it. And then the first thing we need to do is to prepare the environment. So to load every tool that Python needs to be fully functional. And as you can see here, we have another notebook explaining how you can do that in detail. But for your convenience, I just copied and pasted all the steps that are necessary here in this notebook, so that all you have to do is to run them one by one in sequence, and the Python environment will be ready for you.
But what's the number of the notebook?
It's notebook number 9. You can actually see it here. In the green bar on top, it says notebook number 9, how to upload, access, plot, and save data stored locally using Python.
So those of you that are having a little trouble now, you can go onto the ScHARe at your convenience, anytime, day or night. And you can pull up the 09 notebook, and all the steps are right there for you to do.
It's taking a little longer than normal to start the cloud environment. It's normally really quick. Kaylee, do you suggest that I just maybe log out and log in again or something?
No, while it's going, while we're trying to get it started, Mark, why don't you pull up the Slido? It seems like refreshing is working for people. So I think if you're having some trouble and it gets stuck, try refresh. It seems to be the key here. And while we're waiting for this to upload, Mark, why don't you pull up the Slido about the challenges of learning Python?
Mm-hmm.
Will do. All right, so you can go to slido.com and use code Terra, and you can also scan the QR code on the screen, and we will put the link in the chat as well. And then you'll be prompted to respond to this idea. What are the challenges of learning Python in your world today? Please go ahead and start typing in your replies. If you see ideas that you agree with, responses that you agree with, give them a thumbs up. If you'd like to add to what someone else has said, you can reply to their idea. And of course, you can put in your own response as well.
This is something that's very important for us to understand, because this is a barrier that we do want to overcome. So we want to try to do what we can to help our users become able to learn Python without the investment of, taking 10 weeks of courses or having. That's why we have so many notebooks that have the code in it already. And that will help you to be able to use Python, but you really do need to have some understanding of the concepts of it. So hopefully we'll at least initiate a little bit of use, and maybe with a little bit of use, we'll have more investment in time. And for those of you who know R, it is perfectly fine to use. It's not, and we also have notebooks that are for R, so you're not left out on the ScHARe platform. It's just to mitigate confusion. We're only doing Python. But we can have a session for those that are our users, and we can go over our concepts and show you where the notebooks and things are on one of our other Think-a-Thons. I like the honesty, lack of motivation.
We all suffer from that sometimes.
I love it. Yeah, that's why I like it so much.
I mean, when you're doing all these grant reviews and, you know, dealing with compliance,
Yes.
how do you get motivated to learn?
All right. Luca, are we getting a little closer there?
Yes, have a master saying that the code environment is stopping, which is going to take a few minutes, and then it will restart. So I'm still waiting.
Okay.
There's probably too many of us on the same notebook at the same time.
All right. So it looks like most of the issues that deal with learning it is the same sort of barrier, like time, motivation. But here is one that we can sort of address, and that's no prior coding experience and no experience with the concepts and the terminology. And that is something that we are going to address. I think it's in the month of July. We're going to do a Python conceptual Think-a-Thon so that you have the understanding of things like strings and labels and the parts of Python that even when you take a course, you're lost if you don't have this background information. So this is something we can address, and hopefully by addressing some of these concepts and having no prior coding experience, this will help the motivation and then encourage the time to learn Python, because I myself was overwhelmed with all of the new language, the new terms, when you don't have any experience. So we get it. So
In the meantime.
are we about ready, Luca?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, and so Luca, you want to take over?
Sure. Okay, can you all see my screen?
And if yours is not participating, just follow along with Luca and try refresh, and if it worked for you, then please click along.
Perfect. So the first thing we need to do is to set up the environment, as I explained. So to load all the Python tools that Python needs to work correctly. So I facilitated that process for you by copying and pasting all the code cells that you need to run. So by running a code cell, I mean clicking on the cell and going to this button here in the bar called run. And if you click on it, it's going to run the command that is contained in the cell. So we're going to load a series of tools that Python needs. So what's called the package manager. So something that loads everything that is needed for Python to work, and also another tool called IBIS that allows you to actually work with data and transform data. So we're going to click on the first cell here, and we're going to click on Run. And as you can see, the command is running in real time and installing this package manager that Python needs. And it's done. So the next step is going to be, you're going to go to the next cell to install IBIS. So click on Run, click on the cell, again, in the cell. And
slow down, Luca. Let them get time to do it, because the machines are slow because there's so many people on it.
Sure. So we are just preparing the environment for you to be able to run analysis later. So we did the first step. We clicked on this cell and clicked on Run to install the IBIS framework. Then we're going to install this other component by doing
what Luca is doing right now is steps that you have to do every single time that you go to use Python and to do analysis. These are like prep work. It's things to help run your analysis. So you have to do these steps every single time.
So we're going to go to the second cell and we're going to do the same thing. So you click in it and then you select Run. And as you can see on my screen, the command is running and installing everything it needs. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing with some other tools that we're going to use today. I mentioned before that there are several packages, several tools that augment Python's functions. And here are some of them: pandas, numpy, plot9. Each of them adds a function, right? So, for example, plot9, as you can guess from the name, allows users to compose plots. So, or there are other packages, other tools that have other different functions. We're not going to worry about those now. We're just going to install all of these because they are needed for today's demonstration. So I have combined every command that is needed to install them in this cell. So all you have to do is you click in the cell and you click on Run.
And by the way, this notebook is always there on the ScHARe platform. So you just need to go to this notebook and you can repeat these steps even if we're not with you, because all of that code is already set up for you. You don't have to know it. You don't have to remember it. You may just want to make notes to say, go to N21, go to, so you know the steps to do.
Let me know when you're ready to go to the next step. So the next step is about providing the system with some information that it needs about which project you're working with, the name of your workspace, and the name of the storage space where all the data that we're going to work is going to be stored. Again, you don't have to worry about this too much. All you have to do is you just have to click in the cell again and click on Run. I'm going to do that. And you can see that I asked the system to actually print out for me what the Terra billing project name is, what the workspace name is, and what the location of the storage space that we are using to store the data is. And this is just for me to be able to actually see that everything is working correctly, that the system is actually getting that information. Again, just click in the cell and run it. Are we ready for the next step? Debbie, should we go on? Since you're monitoring the chat.
Yeah, it seems that people are not asking a lot of questions, so yeah.
Perfect. So the next thing we're going to do, as I said, we're going to use this data set, which comes in a TSV file. And in order for us to work with the same data, you're going to download it using a link that I will give you. And then we are going to upload it to the workspace. Again, you don't have to do this step. If you are working with your own data, you will just upload that data to your workspace. And there are several ways to do that. I'm only going to demonstrate one today. There are many.
But the benefit, I mean, there's a twofold benefit in what we're doing right here. This is also how you can download data off of the platform onto your computer. So that's basically what you're learning right now, is how do you download the data off of the platform onto your own computers. And then we're going to learn how to upload the data off of your computer back into the platform. So it's a twofer.
Yeah. Downloading data would actually happen from the data tab. Okay, so the next step is to actually download this example file to your computer. So there's a link here. You can just click on it. It's easier. I'm even going to paste it in the chat, but there's really no need. You can just click on it directly from the notebook. Okay, you should see it. And I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to click on the link. And you can see in my case, I have this downloads window that opens. And from here, I can access the file. So in my case, now you have to locate it within your computer. In my case, it's the download folder. In your case, it might be different. Let me actually move it so that I have it on hand. Okay, and now the next thing we need to do, any problems with that step? Sounds like we are okay, perfect. So the next thing we need to do is to actually load that file onto our workspace. So the first thing we need to do is to grab the ID, like for this workspace bucket, so for the location where data is stored. So we're going to run this cell, which is going to give you the...
Hold on
Yes.
just a minute. People are having to find where it's downloaded on their computers.
Okay, perfect. It's usually the downloads folder. So
Look in your downloads folder.
yes. So if you
And,
access...
Mark, will you put Kaylee and Carol in a breakout, please? A breakout room, so
Yes.
Kaylee can help Carol.
Okay.
So I just wanted to show you that if you click on Explorer, you have a list of folders. Downloads are usually saved in this folder here called Downloads, as you know. or it could be your desktop, depending on your settings. I'm gonna place mine here so that it's easier. So let me know when all of you have located the file.
It's probably helpful, so we can go on.
Okay, perfect. So the next thing we need to do is we need to bring this file into Terra. So we need to find where we need to copy it. So the exact location where the file needs to go. And the system is going to do that for us, thanks to these commands. So all you have to do is to click in the cell and run it. And we're going to find out the address you have to use in your browser to access the space where all your data is stored. So we're going to run this cell, click in the cell, anywhere in the cell, and click on run. And you can see that thanks to this command, we now have an address that you can now copy and paste in your browser to access the space where you can actually upload your data. So the next step is going to be, I'm going to copy this address. And then I'm going to open a new tab, or feel free to use a different window or anything that works for you. I'm opening a new tab, of course, to leave the old one open so that I can get back to that later. So I'm going to open a new tab, and in the address bar, I'm going to paste that address that I just copied from the notebook.
Okay, slow down so they can do this.
Sure. So again, run this cell. It's going to give you an address that you can copy. So you select it, and
also look at when you copy it, put it in the chat for people who didn't get there, they can just use it.
okay.
So as he puts it in the chat, then you guys can just copy it from the chat and put it in a new browser.
So you only have to copy it. You can use Control and C, Control plus C to copy it. Or you can right click on the text and select copy link. I'm sure you know, but. And then you can open a new tab in your browser. You go to the address bar and you paste the link that you just copied. Perfect. Debbie, are we ready for the next step?
I'll just give everybody a minute to get there because.
Okay. Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Because everything is a little slow. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And then the next step that you're going to take is there's a big button here called Upload Files. So in this window, you access the storage space that is associated with your workspace. So basically where all of your data is going to be stored. So if you have a data set you want to work with, you can upload it here and you'll see it. You'll be able to access it from Terra. And there are many ways to do this. This is just one, but let's see how it works. So you click on Upload Files. And then a window opens and you have to locate the dataset file that you previously downloaded. So it can be in downloads or desktop, depending on your settings. In my case, it's in desktop. So I click on it and then I select open. So I'm going to do that. And then in my case, I already have one copy of this. So, but don't worry about this. You won't see this on your computers. That message is because I already had a copy of that file in my workspace from previous tutorials. And now it says one file successfully uploaded. So we are good to go.
Luca, just recap this step.
Sure. So in the notebook, you run this code, you select run, you click anywhere in the cell and you select run. It's going to give you an address that you can use to copy it and paste it in a new browser tab. So you open a new tab, on your browser, and then you go to the address bar, you paste the address that you just copied, and you get to this window from which you can upload files to your storage space in the cloud. So every workspace in Terra is associated with the storage space, and this is a way for you to access your storage space. So you click on upload files. In the window that opens, you locate your file. In my case, it's in desktop. It could be in downloads in your case. You click on it, you select open. And then don't worry about this message. It's going to upload. And when the upload is finished, you receive this confirmation message, one file successfully uploaded. And we are good to go to the next step.
Yep.
When you're ready. Okay, perfect. And by the way, the notebook contains really step-by-step instructions. So if you miss anything now, you can always get back to it later, right? And there are other ways also to do this, and they're all explained in the notebook. So the next step is to actually copy the file that we just uploaded to our storage space into the virtual computer that we are using, because the virtual computer needs to be able to access this file to run analysis, read the data, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this cell. So I'm going to click anywhere in the cell and click on run. So this command is actually giving information to the system about where to look for that file. And then in the cell below, this command is the command that actually takes care of copying that file from the workspace, storage space, to the virtual computer that we are using to run the analysis. So we are going to run it. Perfect. You see, operation completed. So now the virtual computer that we are using to run this notebook can see the file. And we're going to verify that by clicking anywhere in this cell and clicking on run again. And this command here basically gives me a list of everything that is contained in my storage space associated with my workspace. So you see, it's a list of files, and our data set is in here. So success, we made it. It's now in our storage space. Do I need to go over these steps again? Debbie, do you think it's helpful?
Just say them again quickly.
Okay, so we're going to copy that file into our virtual computer that we're using to run the analysis. So there are 3 cells. You click anywhere in the cell, you click run. So this is giving the system information that it needs to do that operation. This other cell here, again, click in it and click run, is, sorry, this one, is gonna actually copy the file. And then this last cell is gonna verify that the data set is actually there. Then the next step is to access the file and create a table that our computer can see and can manage. So you can use this command. It's actually pandas, the Python tool that I mentioned before that does this for you. So by running these commands, you are actually getting all of the data that is in that file, in that data set, and you are loading it into a table. And we're going to do that. And we're also going to take a look at the top of that table just to see that everything has worked correctly. So using this command here, we're going to visualize the first 5 rows of that table that we just created, just to verify that the data set has been imported correctly. So I'm going to click anywhere in that cell. I'm going to click on run. And as you can see, the table has been created. And we are now visualizing the first 5 rows. So everything worked. And as you can see in the table, there is information for every state. As you can see, I'm scrolling to the right to show you the full contents. So to get to this step, all you have to do is to run this cell here to have the computer read the file, the data set, and create a table for you and display the first 5 rows. Debbie, are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
I'm asking you because you're monitoring the chat. I cannot do
Yes.
that. Okay, perfect. The next step is we're going to retrieve some data from that table as an exercise. So we're going to retrieve some data and we're going to create a graph. We're going to plot it just, to show you how you can access data, plot it, and you're going to be able to do so many more advanced things with your own data. Here we are sticking to the basics. We want this to be simple. So the first thing we need to do, we retrieve a subset of data from that table. So we are interested in understanding how the 50 US states compare in terms of average percentage of persons below poverty level. So there is a variable name in that table, which is called EPPOV, right? And I wanted to show you, but trust me, it's in the table, it's in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to retrieve the data. So we are using some SQL code, which all of you may be more familiar with than with Python, for example. So the nice thing about these notebooks is that you can combine SQL or Python. It's really nice, all the things you can do. And we are going to read a subset of columns and rows from that table. So click in the cell anywhere and run it. So these commands are going to select like a subset of parameters from the data set. So specifically, I'm going to select the state name and the value, the variable we are interested in, so the poverty level, the percentage of people below poverty level in that state. So I'm going to run this cell. And the second thing that we are doing here is, this would give back so many values, right? Hundreds of values. So we are going to group the values by state abbreviation. And we're going to calculate the average percentage of persons below poverty level for each state. And the nice thing is that it only takes one command and you can do all of that in one step. So we are creating a new table where the data is grouped by state and where we are calculating the average percentage of people below poverty level for that state, for each state. Now, I've run the cell, so the table has been created. And now, just for fun, we can display some information about that table, just to see it and just to verify that everything has been calculated correctly. So in the next cell, if you click anywhere in it, and if you click on run, you see that we are requesting the system to provide some information on that table. And you see we have 51 entries, 0 to 50, which is good, right? We were looking for information on the 50 states. And we have 2 columns. So we have the state abbreviation, and the next column is the average poverty level, which has been calculated for us. So all seems good. And I'm going to show the next 2 steps, and then I'm going to do a quick recap. But in the next step, just for fun, let's do some summary statistics for that table. I want to show you all the functionalities that are available. So we're going to run this cell. And you see, it's pretty nice. It gives you data, information on that table. So count, mean, etc., etc. So summary statistics that might turn out helpful. And then if we also...
I want you guys to pay close attention to the fact that because these notebooks already have this code already for you, you can upload your data and sometimes just change the variables and run it just like Luca's doing right now, and get many of your much of the analyses that you need just by clicking on the cell, and it will automatically run it for you. Okay, go on, Lucas, sorry.
No worries, that's helpful. So we have seen how to display summary statistics for the table. And now we can also do the same thing that we did before, right? So if we want to actually see the first 5 rows of that table, we can use the same command that we used before. And if we run it, you see that the first 5 rows of the table are displayed. So states here in the first column, and average percentage of people below poverty level in the second column. So just to give you a quick recap, in this section, we have retrieved a selection of data, a subset of data from that table. In retrieving that data, we asked the system to group the values by state and also calculate the average. And if you're interested in some other operation, there is plenty of documentation available online on each of these functions, and it tells you how you can calculate anything you want, really, the mean, the average, etc. And in the next step, we just verified that the table was imported correctly. We displayed some summary statistics for the table, and we displayed the first 5 rows. So everything works so far. We have the data, our table is in our system, and we are now ready to plot the data. And to plot the data, we're going to use Plot9, right? The tool that I mentioned before. Again, documentation about each of these tools is available online. There's plenty of things that you can learn just by looking at it and experimenting. So in this cell, I'm going to click in it and run it. The first thing I'm doing here is I'm configuring the size of the plot that I want. I don't want it to be, so big that it's not displayed on screen. So I'm setting the size, And then the next step is to actually plot the data. And this single command is what I can use to configure everything I need for that graph. So it's simple and powerful at the same time, because you can set everything you need here. So identify the X and the Y, and then give some information on the kind of colors that you want, the graph that you want, and the labels for the data, and the title for your plot. So you can do all of that with one single command, which gives you this when run. So as you can see, we have a plot with the average percentage of persons below poverty level for each state. And I'm sorry, it's really small, but I can assure you, and you'll see it on your screens if you have followed us, but you have all the states here on the x-axis and the average percentage of persons below poverty level on the y-axis. And if you're wondering, the reason why the New Mexico data is displaying that way is because because we have not cleaned the data set. So because of the way some missing data was coded in the data set. So it's normal. I didn't clean it. I just wanted to show you to work with the raw data. Okay, and Debbie, do you think it's helpful for me to go over this again, or it's pretty clear?
I think we're good. I think we can go to the next one.
Okay. The next section is about actually saving your data. But I want to make a distinction first. I want to explain something. Your data, whenever you work in a notebook, is automatically saved, okay, in your notebook. So if you close this, right, and now you're running it in playground mode, as I told you, but I'm running it not in playground mode. So whatever modification I do, if I come back to this notebook later, it's going to be there because it's auto-saved. So I think it's important to know how to be able to save data to your workspace, storage space, but normally that's not something that is really needed. There are a few exceptions. I'm not going to go into that, but I still want to show you how you can actually save whatever analysis you generate to your workspace storage. So again, don't worry about losing your data, because whatever you do now is normally saved and you can access it later. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to save the data is to actually get some environment variables, right? So we need to tell the system what the building project ID is, what the workspace name is, and what the storage space that we are using is. So if you remember, we ran the same command before. This is here just to show you again. So we click in the cell anywhere, click on run, and the system shows me the data that I asked it for, right? So the building project ID, the workspace, and the bucket that we are using, the storage space that we are using. And now it's time to save all the data to our cloud storage. So to save all the files that are in this notebook into the workspace bucket or your storage space, you only have to run these commands. So click anywhere in the cell, click run. And I'm asking the system to copy all the files that we have worked on in this notebook into this storage space associated with my workspace. And then I'm also running a command here to actually verify that the files have been saved to that storage space. So you see, it has copied all the files, and this is the list of files contained in that storage space. So everything worked. Again, all your work is normally auto-saved. So if you're curious, there are some circumstances in which you might want to do this, but it's almost like exceptions. If you're changing your storage space size, or then you want to make a copy of everything you have worked with. That's it. But normally for your regular everyday use, you don't need to do this. Debbie, any questions from the chat?
No, we're good. I think we can go on.
Perfect. Okay. Then I go back to my slides for the second tutorial. So we're going to show you how to
Just to
do
keep
this.
track of time, we have 15 minutes left, Luca.
Thank you. So we're going to do we're going to see how to access and analyze data from Google hosted public data sets. And we're going to use Python again. But again, if you prefer to use R, we have a notebook dedicated to that. So just a brief introduction to Google Cloud Public Datasets. They are basically datasets that Google hosts for researchers to access. So this means that Google pays for the storage and public access of these datasets. And there are tools that you can use to access these datasets. And the tool is called BigQuery. BigQuery is the Google storage solution for like databases and structured data. So it's like a spreadsheet, and it's optimized for you to be able to quickly retrieve particular sections of the data. It's really powerful. There are many data sets stored in BigQuery by Google as part of that Google Cloud Public Datasets program. You can see some examples here, and many of them are really interesting, right? You have ACS, you have US Census data, you have the Area Deprivation Index, you have Medicare, for example, and the full list is available in our notebooks. All of these you can access from within Terra. And the good thing is that you don't have to pay for the storage of these data sets because they are already hosted by Google, and all you do is you just access them and you just pay for the data you actually use for your queries. So we will access, for this example, the Area Deprivation Index dataset. So what is the Area Deprivation Index? It's an index that shows where areas of deprivation and affluence exist within a community. So it's calculated based on ACS data from 17 indicators from that survey. So the indicators encompass income, education, employment, housing, etc. And basically the Area Deprivation Index score, a low score indicates affluence or prosperity, and a high score indicates high levels of deprivation, which have been linked to health outcomes, of course, worse health outcomes. So 30-day hospital readmission rates, etc. So we're gonna go back to our browser, and we're gonna select a different notebook for this example. So click on, well, you could actually click here on Analysis to go back to your list of notebooks. And the correct notebook to click on is this one, number 6. How to access, plot, and save data from public BigQuery datasets using Python. So click on it, and then click on Open. So we are doing the same steps that we took before. I'm actually going to open it in playground mode since some of you have already opened it. And it's perfectly fine. Playground means that whatever change you make to this notebook, it's not going to be saved. So it's just for you to experiment with its contents. Okay, perfect. So I explained what BigQuery is, I explained what Google Public Datasets are. And this example, as you see, is going to allow you to see that the steps that we're going to use are almost the same initially, right? So whenever you work with Python, you need to set up the environment. And if you remember our examples from the previous notebooks, these are exactly the same steps. So you install all the tools that Python needs. So we're going to install IBIS, a tool called IBIS, first thing. So click in the cell.
But aren't they already installed, Luca?
This is I want to go over like every step, and this is a separate notebook. So we need to configure the environment for this one.
Yeah, but I want you guys to understand this is the same.
It's the same.
It's the same exact cell. We really don't have to do these again. You
Yeah.
can just know that these are the steps you have to do. That every single time you have to click on this, if, you know, like if you were brand new, but we already did this part. So
Yeah,
I don't want to do it again.
Yeah,
So
you actually, I won't explain like everything in detail, but you have to run the cells. So gonna click on install IBIS query. Just click on every cell in this section.
so you don't get confused. This is not any different than what we already did. You do not have to do these again. So don't think that there's something unique or different about a Google hosted data set or a one from your notebook. This code that you have to do every single time, you do every single time. And it's exactly the same. So we're not going to do this step. We're going to go to the data itself, Luca.
Okay, perfect. So it's the same thing, right? As we did before, we're gonna access the data set. Then the second step is we're gonna retrieve some filtered data. And then the third step is gonna be, we're gonna plot it. So there are, again, several ways to do this. We're gonna focus on the simplest one. So the simplest one uses SQL, which, you know, most of you will be familiar with. So it's we're going to read a subset of columns and subsets of rows from that BigQuery table, from the ADI dataset that I explained before, into a table on our virtual computer. So we're going to retrieve the data first. We're going to run this query from this dataset, which is the area deprivation index. It's publicly accessible, so that's why you can easily access it from here. And all you have to know to access it is its name. And Google does a really great job of providing all this kind of information for every data set that they have. So if you want to access a different data set, you would just have to replace this line with the name of the other data set. And of course, the variables will change. But so we are creating a table and we are selecting a subset of variables. So including basically the state, the year, and the area deprivation index %. And again, we are calculating the average here. So it's okay, perfect. So it's pretty similar. Now, let's display some information about that table. You can click in the cell, run it. And if you notice, oh, sorry, I probably skipped. I didn't run this. Okay, and I ran it. And you see now it works. So it's displaying information about that table that we just created with a subset of information. So we have one column, no, actually several columns, right? Total 4 columns. State code, state, the year, and this value, the average, the mean ADI that we just calculated. And again, as we did before, we can do the same thing and display some summary statistics for that table, count, mean, etc., etc. And we can also display the first 5 rows for that table. So everything seems fine, right? We have the state, we have the year, and we have the mean ADI score for that state. So the next step is plotting the data. Debbie, do you feel that we should recap this, or we're fine?
I think we're good.
Okay. Maybe if we have time at the end, I will just recap everything. But the next step is plotting the data, right? So if you see, it's exactly the same steps. So it's really easy. You have to set up the plot size first, right? So here is what we are doing with this command. And then we're going to plot.
And by the way, the parts that you would change if you wanted to do something different, you just change the 10 and the 6.
Yeah, and of course, this is a simple analysis. There might be more complex things that you may want to do.
So oftentimes when you're using your own data set, all you have to do is change the variable names, the things in between quotes, or the things that determine, like the 10 and the 6. So if you have different variable names, you just replace it, but the code is the same.
And again, in this second command here, you're plotting the data and you're specifying all the parameters that you want for your plot. So you are identifying the X and the Y. The names of the variables, of course, are taken from here, right? So it's easy. And then you're identifying the theme that you want and the labels that you want and the title for your plot. So when you click in it and you run it, we have our plot with all the US states on the x-axis and the mean ADI values for each state on the y. Right. And then again, we can save data here. Again, not really necessary. Remember, your work is auto-saved using notebooks. But there are circumstances where you want to do this. You want to be able to do this. So again, here you're getting the environment variables, so information from the system. What's your project ID, your storage space. So you just run this cell. Okay, and then you can easily save the data by. Of course, you have to, I mean, depending on the data set that you're using, this you might have to change. And then you have to find your cloud native BigQuery data set. I think this is more complicated probably, but I'm just gonna go over it real quick. But you have to save all the data to your storage. So you can use this command to copy all the files that have been generated by this notebook into your storage space. This is the exact same thing we did before. Just have to input the right name here, right? Which you're using this command to get. And then, as you can see, the system copied all the files. And this is not really necessary to show now. It's just how to save the table to BigQuery, but it's probably at a more advanced level. So I would probably stop here in the interest of time. Debbie, what do you suggest?
Yeah, we basically got to the save. So we're at the end of time. So I hope this helped. I definitely think that this was a much better approach to register everyone in the first half hour because there was less confusion. It seemed that makes it easier for people to follow along and to participate. So I'm really glad that you joined us today. Mark, if you could put up the last poll, please. We're constantly trying to improve what we're doing for you. So if you could please respond to the last poll, this will help us make improvements along the way. And I want to give a big thank you to Tim and Kaylee and Rachel for helping us out today, because there was questions definitely in the chat that we weren't able to answer. So I really appreciate all Terra's help. Mark, if you could do that. So thank you, Tim, Kaylee, Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the poll is available. If everyone could go to slido.com or open the Slido app again. You can also scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the chat and just fill out the last few questions before you go, please.
And stay tuned for the upcoming emails for the next Think-a-Thons. We have them every month. Be sure to sign up for the listserv. And so you'll be notified of all the future Think-a-Thons and all the other events and activities that are going in relation to ScHARe. And keep in mind, you can go onto the platform anytime you want, day or night. So feel free to use it, to play around, to use the notebooks. You can copy the notebooks, you can use the data. We really encourage you to do that because we built this as a resource for you. And therefore we want you to use it as much as you possibly can. Any last comments or questions before we close? You can come off mic and say it if you'd like, while people are filling out their surveys. Okay, so today, I hope you learned how to upload your data, download data, and then even just pull in data from the Google hosted data sets. All right, so thank you, and we'll see you next month, I hope.